You wouldn't think that someone who uses as many plant medicines as I do would have such trouble keeping his houseplants alive. But plant medicines have a long history of successful use. For example, the Chinese, for hundreds of years, have brewed a tea from the poppy flower that's used to make opium, but they've had few bad effects compared to that plant's derivatives: opium, heroin, morphine. Another example, people in the high Andes mountains chew coca leaves to increase their stamina. Although they occasionally have some ill effects, it's nothing like the destructive effects of cocaine. In both cases, refinement of the plant causes addiction and ill health. I don't know if you're familiar with the foxglove plant. This gorgeous flower, it's like little purple bells hang all over it. It yields a powerful medicine that affects the rhythm and strength of the heartbeat and has been used to treat edema, congestive heart failure, atrial fibrillation, pretty serious health problems. And think about that the next time you hear someone suggest that real medicines are only made in test tubes. If you take the leaves and the flowers of the foxglove, mash them up and suspend them in alcohol for a couple weeks and strain it off, you get a potent medicine I'm sure you've heard of, Digitalis. Now I have to tell you a little history here. Digitalis, like a lot of plant-based medicines, has been used for over 100 years by different types of doctors. It was used by the physiomedicalists. It was used by the eclectics. These are two defunct schools of medicine. It was used by homeopathic doctors and later osteopathic doctors and naturopathic doctors as well. But it was also used by a group of doctors who called themselves the regulars. The regular doctors were dead last in popularity with the public because they had people swallowing mercury and other awful stuff and did a lot of invasive things to the body. Nearly every other type of physician was making a better income. But the regulars had one thing that the others did not have. They had a business plan, and a good one. In order to get the lion's share of the healthcare business, they decided to revamp their public image. Their new marketing campaign centered on them being the modern scientific doctors. And when it came to prescribing a plant-based medicine like Digitalis, they said, something in that plant is causing this action and we should know what it is. So as they emphasized laboratory medicine more and more, it changed how drugs were made. In this case, they found two main chemicals in the foxglove plant responsible for its heart effects, digitoxin and digoxin. So the regular doctors started giving these instead of the whole plant, and they started killing people. So they had to be really careful with the dose. A little bit of one of these chemicals goes a long, long way. They called them at the time alkaloids, but we now know they're glycosides, but that doesn't matter. Digitoxin and digoxin were isolated by the regular doctors. And of course, the plant also contains digitonin, F-gitonin, and gitalin, but they weren't too interested in these. In this and other examples I could give you, the isolated parts of the plant create more shock to the system and have more side effects than an extract of the whole plant would. This is because in nature, other chemicals are in that plant that alter, limit, or buffer the action of the alkaloids that are said to be the active substances. There's a gentler action, often slower, but fewer actions that you don't want, even though there are more plant chemicals in the mix. Now, I'm not suggesting that plants are always safe. eating a foxglove flower would be pretty dangerous. But it would take a much smaller dose of digoxin to be as dangerous. Yet, digoxin is a standard prescription heart medicine today. The regulars made great advances in emergency medicine because the new, stronger drugs could save lives. And this is part of why they are the dominant school of medicine today. But the other reason they got so far ahead is because of that business plan. You see, you can grow a foxglove flower in your backyard. You can't grow digoxin in your backyard. It has to be extracted in a laboratory. The drug companies then, as now, concentrated on making more and more products that could be patented and therefore more profitable. This was also good news to the druggist because he didn't have to make the medicine anymore. The regular doctor would prescribe the drug made for the disease, the druggist would fill the prescription, and everyone got a fee. This was really good for the drug company because after they set up the process to make an isolate or a synthetic version of a plant medicine, they could make tons of the medicine for pennies. With that extremely high profit margin, drug companies supported the regular medical schools. And as they say, the rest is history. One other way in which this whole system is profitable. They knew from early on that taking an isolate like digoxin created new health problems that the patient would then return for. The situation that everyone is complaining about today, where half the medicine someone is taking is for the side effects of the other half, is not new. This is why the drug industry is so impossibly wealthy and powerful. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before, or have at least thought about it. But while I talk about this to a lot of people, and they understand this perspective about drugs, very few realize that it also applies to nutrition. Did you ever realize, for example, that when you take vitamin C, and I know you probably have, that you are likely taking ascorbic acid? Do you realize that it is not vitamin C? Ascorbic acid is something that is in vitamin C. Vitamin C is composed of 9 vitamins. Those are the elements that make up a vitamin. And by the time the whole vitamin C complex is completely assembled in a plant source, it has 24 chemicals in it. Yet, even textbooks will tell you that vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Almost all vitamin manufacturers make their C products out of ascorbic acid because it's water soluble and has the most volume. They can suck out the ascorbic acid from the plant and make thousands of vitamin C tablets for pennies. It has some of the properties of vitamin C, but not all of them. And it does things to you that the whole vitamin does not. Can you help an infection, for example, with ascorbic acid? Yes, you can. But it works not because of a nutritional effect so much as a drug effect. If you've ever done this, you know that you have to take lots of it, 5 to 8 grams a day, and you have to take it really often. Why? Because you keep peeing it out. And when you reach the saturation point, so-called bowel tolerance, you get the runs. That's supposed to tell you that you can't absorb any more vitamin C. Did you ever stop to think that if this is an essential nutrient for the human body, why are you peeing it out so rapidly? It's an acid. It's an irritant. When you get so much of it that you can't get rid of the stuff fast enough by urinating, your body gets serious about expelling it and gives you diarrhea. Like the alkaloids, like the glycosides, the isolated parts of a nutritional substance have a powerful action in a narrow range, and then it has side effects. And you've not been told this for the same reason that everyone was made to forget that there were real doctors using whole plant medicines that were safer. You are meant to think that you're helping yourself by taking vitamins in the hope of not having to take a lot of drugs. And then they're selling you supplements that are doing the same thing, giving you a little bit of benefit while creating problems down the road, all the while making a tremendous profit. It makes me mad, and it ought to make you mad too. Please join me for the rest of the story about real vitamins.